finger. It's a move. So Dennis Schroder is one of the Lakers' big free agents this offseason. He reportedly turned down a 4-year, $84 million extension with the team earlier this year. In his exit interviews, he denied that money was the reason why he turned it down and reiterated he wants to be in LA. But in his quest for a new contract, he reportedly is expecting to get around $100 to $120 million in free agency.
He's a good player. He's inconsistent, but he's a very good player. And I'll be honest with you, I think he's got leverage here.
Because the Lakers?
Well, I think he does. I mean, LeBron is now at year 18. Anthony Davis, I think, will have a very good year. He'll train hard in the offseason, but he's got injuries. Dennis is, from what I'm told, can ruffle feathers, not easy to get along with. Because of LeBron's sort of gravitas in the room, LeBron makes it work with him. But in the end, if you told me I had to keep 3 people, it would be Dennis, it would be LeBron, it would be Anthony Davis, and everything else, to me, I would work around. I like KCP. I would love to have him. But if you told me I get 3, that's what I'd want. So I think Schroder knows that.
Well, there are only so many high-level players to go around.
Right.
The Lakers do have a ton of free agents this year, so it's going to look very different. But I think specifically if you pay attention to what's happening in the playoffs right now, and you do have an injury-prone player in Anthony Davis, and LeBron is getting more and more years tacked on his career, having a bench is very important. So how much money you spend on the top half of your roster, if you don't have a solid bench, when you get later into the season and injuries happen, as we know, and you already have an injury-prone player, you know, at what number are you willing to pay for a player like Dennis Schroder?
Listen, you don't want to pay him $120. You want to pay him $80. How do I know that? Because they did.
They did.
They feel he's an $85 million guy, not a $120. And the difference in that is a bench player. The difference in that is keeping a Kuzma, who LeBron doesn't play well with. But I just think it's one of these. Sometimes the player does have leverage. And when you have an aging star and a brittle star, Schroeder's pretty valuable on that team to me.
So expectations are always high before an NFL season starts, but there are some quarterback head coach combinations on hotter seats than others. Bucky Brooks, our friend Bucky, put together a list of the top 5 quarterback coach combos that are under the most pressure heading into the 2021 season. You know you love lists. So Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay are number 1. Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh are 2. Carson Wentz, Frank Reich 3. Derek Carr, John Gruden 4. And Andy Dalton / Justin Fields and Matt Nagy are 5.
So I feel like Carson Wentz and Frank are 1 because they rolled the dice a little bit because of the seasoning. Like McVay and Stafford. We know Stafford's talented. We know McVay is smart. I mean, what do they have to win the Super Bowl? Like, I feel like Harbaugh, Lamar. Lamar's good. Harbaugh's good. But the question now with Wentz is he any good anymore? That feels like pressure to me. That is something to prove. This dude could not hit stuff out in the flat, like was overthrowing screens.
I think Carson Wentz has a lot of pressure on him this season.
I think he has a ton.
I agree, especially the way that the Colts played last year. Like, they were very impressive. So if he comes in and he's not slinging it, and the way that he exited Philadelphia,
A little ugly,
was not pretty. So that adds a little extra pressure too. I do think Matthew Stafford does have some pressure. We've heard a lot about how great he is, and I do think that he is good. I think he is going to be successful here in LA. But he kind of has to be. Like, that was a massive move to move Jared Goff, even though Goff was struggling. He did play in a Super Bowl with them.
Yeah.
So it's a very tough division. I think they do have a little bit of pressure, and I definitely think John Gruden and Derek Carr have a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, no question there.
Like, they might be too.
If it doesn't work this year, they'll probably make a move.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
My buddy Nick right now joining us, Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing, first thing first. I want to talk about that. I haven't talked about this yet. There are times we all have a friend, and you root for the friend, and you think that friend got bad luck. That friend got bad luck. I am there for him. And then 10 years later, you're like, no, most of his crap is self-inflicted. Now, I am not talking about you, Nick, right? Because I haven't known you 10 years. But there are people like that. Milwaukee is one of those stories that I liked for a long time. Giannis from Greece, 60 Minutes piece. Oh, I like that. Ooh, they added Jrue Holiday. I like what they're doing. I've got to the point now I'm rooting against them. Like, I'm over Milwaukee. Kawhi left the East. LeBron leaves the East. Embiid is hurt. They scored 38 points against Atlanta without Trae Young. I watched them last night, and I'm like, their crap is self-inflicted. I am over Milwaukee this morning. Your thoughts?
I'm shell-shocked. It's very interesting. I spent some time this past weekend with the great Joy Taylor here in New York City. And listen, I'm going to reveal some confidences. Joy also not as big of a Giannis fan as the rest of the world is. And I said to her, I was like, Joy, that's a corner. You could be like the first, you'd have to really go far with it, but you could be loudly anti-Giannis. No one's on that corner. This could be the anti-Giannis show. It's an odd day for you to debut this take, Colin, as he's writhing on the ground, holding his knee.
That's true.
Listen, I feel very differently. And I heard the open of your show when Colin's like, I was listening to all these terrible talk shows this morning feeling bad about Giannis. I was like, he's talking about me. I know when he drives in, he's...
.com/yes. Get used to hearing yes. So I saw this story. D. Wade now is part owner of the Utah Jazz. Kind of a smart move by the organization. Let's let D. Wade come in here because, there's always been this theory that, a lot of stars don't like to play in Utah, and I've always kind of rolled my eyes at it. Utah's like Gonzaga basketball. They've been good forever, and they've been damn close to winning. If there's no Michael Jordan, the Utah Jazz have 2 championships. They gave Jordan fits. I watched those series. You watch those series. Michael had some of his worst playoff games against Utah. Those games were wars. Those were battles. Without Michael, you got 2 of them. Don't kid yourself. Here's the other thing. Karl Malone liked playing there. Stockton did. Clarkson does. Donovan appears to. T. Bailey did. Brian Russell did. Jerry Sloan liked coaching there. So is Quinn Snyder. Coaching matters. Coaches like coaching there. Players matter. Their stars like playing there. So when I hear like Donovan Mitchell may not be happy there, that's a rumor, I think, with timeout. Don't tell me people don't like playing in Utah. You know where players don't like playing? Cleveland. LeBron is from there and is like, get me out of here twice. Washington, D.C. When's the last time the Wizards were relevant? The 70s? I watched those series against the Sonics and Elvin Hayes and Wes Unseld and Phil Chenier. I mean, look, where are all the players going to Washington? How about New York? 1 playoff series win since 2000. I keep hearing about all these guys that want to play in New York. Where are they? Julius Randle's a big get. All right. Here's something to remember. Now, in pro sports, the way pro sports are built, they're trying to create, except baseball with no salary cap, but NBA, NHL, NFL, they have salary caps. They're trying to keep it even. If you're good, you draft last in the first round, right? College sports are different. The better you are, the more you dominate recruiting. So college is built for dynasties, built for big brands. There's no salary cap there, right? So just think of how hard it is to win. And Utah's been this close twice. No MJ, they got 2 titles. This close. So think in college sports how good Kansas basketball is. The guy who invented basketball is from Kansas. So they had a little head start on everybody else. He invented it, James Naismith. They had Wilt. They have nothing but 4 and 5-star athletes. They have one of the best coaches, Bill Self, in college basketball. Before him, Roy Williams. Those are 2 of the top 5 coaches last 20 years. Arguably, right? 30 years, 1 title. 1, Kansas. They invented the sport. 1, Texas football. When you think Texas, I think football. Texas has an unbelievable brand. You ever fly into Dallas and you get to 10,000 feet, down to 5,000 feet, and you're getting ready to go into Dallas-Fort Worth Airport? You ever do that at night and you see the high school football stadiums, 8 of them, they're all like 30,000 people? It's like no other state's like that. The state school in Texas, Texas football, 40 years, 1 title. And it was like a last play of the game thing with USC. They came this close to losing it at the Rose Bowl. Kansas basketball, Texas football, 2 titles, 70 years combined. One sport invented their sport. The other one feels like they did. And that's college sports, where dynasties happen. Utah's well-run, exceptionally well-run. For years, it was exceptionally well-owned. Great coaches, great scouting, great players. I want to hear about, nobody really wants to play in Utah. Nobody wants to play in Cleveland.